Achado que domingo e segunda era a mesma colégio, esse que foi de casa. Às vezes é, mas você falou a diferença. Exatamente. Vamos iniciar então. Bom, pela primeira vez no trabalho com a empresa, eu vou mandar na tela no YouTube. Acho que sim. Ele vai começar. Só que você ajuda para os formatos. Eu vejo como. Seja bem-vindo, bom dia, tudo bom? Bom dia. Prazer em conhecer. Então, seja bem-vindo, né? Obrigada. Pode.
So good morning again, officially. So we're gonna start with our harmonizing reading. And this one is from the book Living Spring, Fonte Viva. And it's text 159, with love. Whoever loves his brother is in the light, and in him there is no offense. Gospel of John, chapter 2, verse 10. Those who love their neighbor know above all to understand. And those who understand know to free their eyes and ears from the poisonous enticement of offense in order to help, instead of accusing and deserving. It is necessary to bring the heart to dwell in the light of true fraternity in order to realize that we are each other's brothers and sisters, children of just one Father. As long as we keep ourselves in the dark phase of being attached solely to ourselves, we imprison ourselves in selfishness and expect others to love us. During this unfortunate time, we only know how to want for ourselves, using others as instruments for our own satisfaction. But if we really do love the brother or sister on our path, the scenery of our life changes because the light of love bathes our vision. Therefore, love and just as mud can never offend the light, offense can never touch you. You will know that misery is the fruit of ignorance, and thus you will help victims of wrongfulness, finding in them your own brothers and sisters in need of support and understanding. You will learn to listen without disgust, even if the crime reaches your ears, and you will help your adversary even when you feel offended, because forgiveness, combined with complete forgetfulness for the blows you have received, will arise spontaneously in your spirit, just as tolerance is natural for the spring that receives the stones that are cast into it. Love, and you will understand, and you will serve more and more each day, for you will dwell within the glory of the light, inaccessible to any incursion of the darkness. So let us do our initial prayer. Let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath. Dear Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today We thank you for our health. We thank you for our lives, for having more than we need and more than enough to accomplish our mission on earth. We thank our Master Jesus for all the lessons he taught us, for the example he gave us with his own actions. And we thank all the mentors of our humble home here in Canada who enlighten us, who help us, and who give us the strength to keep on going, to keep on working, and to try to develop all the virtues that are essential for us to evolve into relative perfection. May today's meeting touch our hearts. May it help us understand a bit more about ourselves and how to achieve some of our objectives here in this life. So be it. All right. Thank you, DJ. Okay, so today's theme is love. What is the essence of unconditional love? But before we answer that question, what's the essence of unconditional love? We're going to answer another question. What is unconditional love? That's a question for you guys to answer. What is unconditional love?
You love no matter what.
You love no matter what. Do you have more ideas? Just in time. Just in time to answer the question, Giselle. Can you think of other words we can use with unconditional love? So loving no matter what. Yes. So Diego, what's unconditional love?
Well, true love, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think all mothers love unconditionally? Unfortunately, no. Okay. You are both right. True love, loving no matter what. But actually, if we are going, we can be really literal here and just break the word in two. So conditional is when I have a condition. Unconditional, no condition. That seems pretty obvious, but if we break it apart, it will help us understand. In one of his lectures, Alírio de Cerqueira Filho, he says, he talks about three different, not kinds, but stages of love, three different phases of love. He says the first love is the childish love. It's the love that demands, just like a small child. It's me, 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 and me again, please, right? And then we go to juvenile or adolescent love. Is the love that imposes conditions. I will love you if you love me. I will give you attention if you pay attention to me. So that's the one that has conditions. There's always an if. If you do this, I'll love you. Right? And then the last stage of love is unconditional love. Is a love that imposes no conditions. So even though it's obvious, when we think about no conditions, it helps us go back in our minds and think about personal experiences with certain people, and we will see clearly the childish love, some people who only demand, I only want to receive, and I have no obligation to give. Right? So the association is with children, but here we're talking about adults, okay? So adults that have childish love, that only want for themselves. And we can also think of people in our lives, including parents, that have the juvenile love, right? I will love you if you do well in school. I will love you if you get a medal in your competition. I will love you if you behave well. If you don't behave well, I'm going to leave this house. You'll never see me again. Maybe our parents never did that, but I'm sure we had friends who went through something like this. We probably all of us know some people who have parents like this. So it doesn't matter the age, it's the stage of love they're at. It's the juvenile love, when there's always a condition for them to love us. Or for us to love our people. We might recognize ourselves there too. No need to raise hands. And then we get to the unconditional love, which is why many mothers have this, they are at this stage of unconditional love, because they love no matter what. Even when our kids make us mad, we're mad, but we still love, right? So not all parents are capable of unconditional love yet, but some parents are, yes. Okay, so now that we know what unconditional love is, it's a love that imposes nothing. No conditions, no impositions. I just love. Right? Is it easy to associate this love to our children, to our parents, to our family members, to a best friend, to anybody whatsoever? My boss, the crazy cat lady downstairs.
Could it be that it's as built in those conditions? Because if we truly, like you said, love your neighbors like you love yourself, so you should put conditions or perspective of love from anyone.
That's what we do actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will only love my neighbor if they're nice and they don't bug me when I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And then we ask ourselves, is it love? Or is it just, bearing with? I'm going to stand him or her. So we have as a society in general, not just we in our room, as a society in general, we have very superficial ideas and concepts of what love is. We confuse love with passion. Love and passion are not the same thing. Passion goes away. Love doesn't. Passion has conditions, definitely. And once those conditions are not met anymore, we move on. Or they move on, and we stay, right? So as a society, worldwide, we have very superficial concepts of what love is. We call passion love, we call attraction love, we call juvenile or childish love, which is not really love, but we call them love. We call attachment love, but it's not. Love is an essential feeling. It's something that imposes no condition. It's something that, it's an energy. Love is an energy that just flows. Does it mean that if I have it, I have it, if I don't, whatever? No, we can develop it. Oops, I just answered one of my own questions. But let's move on because we have lots of stuff to look at. So I already asked you this question. So are we able to love just anyone?
We are able, but we don't do this.
Yes. Okay. We have the ability, but we're just not quite there yet, right? on. Okay, now Diego mentioned something, and this is something that we, as English speakers of English as a second language, this is something we struggle a bit with, is like Bible language. So we struggle with this a little, so I always like to bring some stuff here to help us identify, oh, this is that in Portuguese. So in Portuguese, when Jesus gives us the two commandments, amar a Deus com todos, acima de todas as coisas, e ao próximo como a si mesmo. So in English, o próximo is your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So are we able to love all of our neighbors unconditionally? Not yet. Another question. Even our family members or our children, are we able to love them as ourselves, as we love ourselves? Probably not yet. Because actually some of us have not learned to love ourselves yet either. Okay? And every time I say we and us, I'm not just talking about we in our room, I'm talking about society in general, okay? So are we able to love anyone under a few conditions?
Oh, yes.
Right? Turn down the volume. And even though personally I am a poor example, because a good example is always Jesus and superior spirits, of course. But, you know, I just mentioned to our new friends in the back that I have a teen and a preteen, and my teen is really a teen. So the whole under a few conditions, ooh, I'm gonna love you if you behave well. So it's, you know, and there are moments, right? We are not yet, we don't have our virtues fully developed. So sometimes we're like a pendulum and we're going from one extreme to the other, right? So I love you, and right now I want to kill you, and then I love you again. And so we still go through that until we fully develop the virtue, and then we won't anymore. And are we able to love anyone unconditionally? And we have already discussed this. Now, I have already answered my own question, but anyway, can we develop this virtue of unconditional love? Is it actually possible to love our neighbors as we love ourselves? And if so, what is stopping us or slowing us down? Because we said we have the capability, right? We're able in terms of possibility. So why aren't we there yet? What's stopping us from doing it or from feeling that? What is slowing us down? Because maybe we're not stopped, we're just a bit slow to get there. So what is slowing us down? And finally, how do we develop this virtue of unconditional love? Because is it possible? Yeah, okay, let's all go home. No, that's not the point. How do we get there? Okay? Yep. So here we go. We are going to analyze. I don't have the book here with me. I can bring you and show you later. So today's lecture was based on a book called Parábolas Terapêuticas, Therapeutic Parables, by Alírio de Cerqueira Filho. And we are going to analyze here today the parable of the house. It's a parable with 2 verses. And I wasn't able to get not even half of what's in the book for only 2 verses. Okay? So we have in the library. I highly recommend, if you want, you can borrow from the library. It's only 12 pages, but they're really full of content. A lot of very good and useful information. And here is the parable. This parable is in Matthew chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. Jesus was preparing his apostles for when he was gone. And he was telling them what they needed to do. And then he told the apostles, and when you go into a household, greet it. So he was teaching his apostles to be polite, right? Just like we do with our kids. So when you go into a household, greet it. If the household is worthy, does everybody know worthy? Yeah? Let your peace come upon it. And he's talking to the apostles. So if the house is worthy, the apostles let their peace come upon the house. But if it's not worthy, let your peace return to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah? So if the house is worthy, you give your peace. Let your peace come upon it. If the house is not worthy, he didn't say turn around and walk away. He didn't say insist and convince people. He just said, let your peace return to you. And in the book, Parábolas Terapêuticas, Therapeutic Parables, by Alírio de Cerqueira Filho, he says that those two verses are, this recommendation by Christ is the essence of unconditional Christian love. Were you able to make the connection?
Yes.
Why? Why? How can those two verses summarize unconditional Christian love?
Because each household is like a person. We have to give them our peace and love. And if they are worthy, they feel it and give us back. But if they aren't worthy, they don't even perceive it. But we will receive it back because we send it away.
Yes, basically yes. Come on in. Okay, so, and all the words in quotes are Alírio's words, just for translation. So usually, because of our egotistic negativities, we want to offer our love and our peace to others conditionally, with the objective of receiving retribution. Remember the juvenile love. I will only give to you if you give it to me. Right? If the house is worth it, let your peace be with it. Okay? If it's not, just go away. So here Alírio is explaining to us that because of our ego, we want to offer something with the condition that we'll receive it back. If I don't receive it back, I don't want to give. Not stupid, right? Love is made of two movements, giving and receiving. Yeah, does it make sense? We give love, we receive love. When we offer love to someone who is not worthy of our love, this love, because it's an energy, and remember the scientific principle, nothing in nature is wasted, nothing is lost, everything transforms. Energies are not lost, they just change, right? So because love is an energy, not finding reciprocity, so if we give but we don't receive, there's no reciprocity, love will indirectly benefit the other person, because remember, an energy, we're sending good energy, whether the person wants it or not, it's going to benefit them, right? Even if they don't want to receive the gift, it is going to benefit them. So not finding reciprocity will indirectly benefit the other person and come back to the original source. So if the person is like a shield, it will get to her. If it doesn't go through, it comes back to us because it's an energy. It's never wasted, right? So that's where in the verse, Jesus says, let your peace return to you. So if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon them. Perfect. You want to give, they want to receive. Awesome. But if it's not worth it, Jesus says, let your peace return to you, because the energy is not wasted. It just comes back to us. So because the energy never gets lost. This is why we must not worry about receiving love back. Right? Nobody needs to raise their hands, but let's just go back to our teenage years and think about our relationships. Did we ever worry about loving and not being loved back? Right? Some of us maybe yes, some of us maybe no, but however, if we offer love to someone worthy of our love, when it finds reciprocity, it echoes, it reverberates in the other. It potentiates with the other's love and returns to us more potent. Right? Does that make sense? Because we're adding. When we send it and there's no reciprocity, it benefits the person because we are sending something good in their direction and it comes back to us the same way. But if we send it and there's reciprocity, it just potentializes. It just becomes bigger and it comes back a whole lot stronger because we're adding, right? And that's when Jesus says, if the household is worthy, let your peace come upon it. Thus, our love grows even more and makes us happy. Right? Yes, no, come on.
We're talking about love and good things, right? But
Yeah.
it's important to remember the other side. That when we project bad things, when we project anger, project suffering or whatever, it may grow also.
Yep.
The other person accepts, or if the other person shields,
Yep.
then it becomes
It's the same rule. It's the same rule because, again, it's an energy as well, right? And it never gets lost either. So another reason for us to be careful what we're sending other people's way, because it does come back to us. And like Bruno said, if the feeling is mutual, it also potentiates and comes back bigger as well, right? So important to be careful. Therefore, it is worth it to develop unconditional love for our neighbors, because this way we will be always giving and receiving whatever the circumstances may be. Yeah, does that make sense? Right? Okay. So the biggest exercise we can do in this world is to love our neighbors as ourselves. And how can we, actively, in actions, not only thoughts, not only ideas, how in actions can we exercise this? How can we exercise loving our neighbors as we love ourselves? If it's not a feeling that we already have naturally, if it's not a virtue that we have already developed, and I guess if we had, we wouldn't be here. How do we exercise that? Because remember, we also established that we are capable of doing it, but we need to exercise to get there. How do we exercise?
Charity.
What kind? Because there are different kinds of charity, right?
I think first you have to love yourself. Learn to love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you cannot love
You
anyone.
can't give something you don't have.
First you need to love yourself and to whatever you like can make you feel better about yourself. And then you have to start exercising, loving your neighbor. And then as soon as you have to keep doing it till you feel it. So when you feel it, and then you want to stop doing it because you feel that vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why Jesus never gives up. But he can feel that vibration, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why he never gives up.
You are right, but there are a few downfalls. There are a few places where we can go wrong there, and we're going to talk about them. So there are a few places where we might think we're doing something and we're doing something else. So the best way, because again, Jesus gave us all the formulas. We just have been ignoring them for a while, about 2,000 years or so. So we've been kind of ignoring the rules he gave us. And he also gave us the perfect recipe to exercise that love. And it is in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up all the laws and the prophets. So he gave us the recipe. Treat other people the way we like to be treated. The negative is always correct. Don't do unto others what you don't wish them to do to you. And actually, this little recipe exists in pretty much all philosophies and religions in different words, starting before Krishna, starting more than 2,000 years before Jesus. Okay? So this is how we exercise it. And we're gonna talk about the charity as well. So in order to follow Jesus' golden rule, we call it the golden rule, treat other people the way you like to be treated, we need to develop our conscience. Because how can I treat someone else the way I would like to be treated if I'm not paying attention? Because if I only do what pleases me, and I don't care about the repercussions, I don't care how others are going to feel. If I'm going to feel good, whatever. If I act that way, that means my conscience is very deep asleep. It's completely not there, let's say. So in question 621, Allan Kardec asks the spirits, where is the law of God inscribed? Many of you already know the answer. In our conscience, exactly. But Kardec was never happy with simple, single answers, right? He had to keep digging and poking. So he goes and asks in 621a, since man carries the law of God in his conscience, where was the need of revealing it to him? Like him, man, right? So if man, us, if we already have it in our conscience, like the Spirit said, so God's law is inscribed in our conscience, if we already have it, why did Spiritism come to reveal the law? Why did Jesus come to talk about the law? Some of you know the answer too, I guess. And that's what the spirits say. Because men had forgotten and misunderstood it. Do you think humanity has ever misunderstood anything and interpreted according to their own interests? No, never, right? So, men had forgotten and misunderstood the law. God willed that it should be recalled to his memory, that we should remember what the whole thing is all about. Then the answer continues. During the process of evolution, when we cultivate the egotistic matters instead of the essential ones, we go into a temporary state. I'm sorry, this is a video, not spiritual. We go into a temporary state of unconsciousness characterized by the numbing, amortecer, of our own conscience, because it never ceases. Our conscience never goes away. God inscribed his laws in our conscience the moment we were created as individualities, as spirits that would incarnate in a human body. That moment, God inscribed the laws in our conscience. They're there. They never cease. They don't go away. But we can numb them. We can put them in a box, lock, and pretend they're not there, until they scream at us so loud that we have to start listening. Okay? So in this phase of numb conscience, so in this phase of unconsciousness, the human being experiences this love intensely. And this love, of course, doesn't exist in English, but because English is a very flexible language, we just made it up. Because hate doesn't translate, dislike doesn't translate, so we made up this love. And we're gonna see what it really means, okay? So the human being experiences this love intensely, both for themselves and for others. I hate myself and I hate the world, okay? So the feelings of selfishness and egocentrism and pride are at a max level. I'm the center of the universe. Everything is about me. I hate myself. I hate everybody. Everything is for me. And anybody who doesn't know I exist sucks. So when we are at this level of unconsciousness, like a 2-year-old, pretty much, right? So in question 785, someone is upset. In question 785, Allan Kardec asks, what is the greatest obstacle to progress? Does anybody remember? There are two. One is pride. I just said the other one. Arrogance. It's one of its daughters. Yes, selfishness. Exactly. So, pride and selfishness. The answer continues, but for our purposes, this is enough. So, what is the greatest obstacle to progress? Pride and selfishness. Right? Then we jump to question 913, and Kardec asks, which? So see, this was 785. Kardec never gives up. He keeps poking and poking, and he goes back, and he asks, which among the vices may be regarded as the root of all others? A raiz de todo mal. Selfishness, as we have repeatedly told you. Like we've told you again and again and again, and you still don't get it, you're still asking, and it's still the same answer. Selfishness, as we have repeatedly told you. For it is from selfishness that everything evil proceeds. Okay. Does that make sense? So this answer continues. Study, the spirits keep saying, study all the vices, and you will see that selfishness is at the bottom of them all. Combat them as you will, like all the other vices. You can combat them as much as you want. You will never succeed in extirpating them until attacking the evil in its root. The order is a bit weird here, but did you understand? You can study all the other vices, everything. Pride, arrogance, what else? Anxiety, hate, all of them. You will never end them if you don't attack the root. Because they are, let's say they are symptoms, but the cause is still selfishness. So he says, attacking the evil in its root. So you won't succeed until you attack the evil in its root. And until you have destroyed the selfishness, which is their cause. They are just an effect. So we need to attack the cause. Let all your efforts tend to this end, for selfishness is the veritable social gangrene. Right? What's wrong, Daniel? You're squinting. You disagree?
No.
You're totally allowed to disagree. So the answer continues. Whoever would make, even in his earthly life, some approach towards moral excellence must root out every selfish feeling from his heart. For selfishness is incompatible with justice, love, and charity. It neutralizes every good quality. Ouch. So every good quality I have is neutralized by my selfishness. Oh, shoot.
That is interesting, because we remember how do you say this in Pharisees?
Pharisees.
Remember how they did their charity? And lots of gold and they make
Yep.
how much gold and give. And then you just choose the parable in which there was a person who shared his own land.
Yes, that's perfect, Bruno. Because before we were talking about charity, we still do charity as the Pharisees did. Giving. Right? I go, I make soup, I give you soup, then I go home. That's it. I'm good, I'm done. I give you my old clothes, I give you my leftovers, and I'm such a good soul. I'm done. I'm not saying we should not do it, because the people who need it will appreciate it, and it has value. However, we need to be careful if in our mind we think that this, only this, is charity, we're very mistaken. Okay? So, okay, yeah. So, and then we go back to Alírio. The selfish person generates a negative energy around themselves that isolates them from the others. And this is easy to see when it's a person who is like very openly, very obviously selfish. They end up alone, right? Everybody ends up going away because of the negative energy that surrounds them. This isolation makes the selfish person feel so bad that, due to envy and spite, the person wants others to feel bad as well, so that they believe they are fine. Okay, so when we set the bar very low, everybody's down there, I am up here, I'm great. But we're still everybody at the bottom. So I only feel good because I think everybody's below me, when in reality, none of us is good. Right? And can we recognize this, maybe in a few people, someone who feels so bad that they become envious and spiteful, and they want everybody else to suffer. They want everybody else to be miserable so they can feel better. Okay? We might even have been there ourselves in a situation or another. For this reason, the selfish person wants their well-being before others. Me first, me, and then me again. Which in reality is a pseudo well-being. Okay, does everybody know pseudo?
No.
Something that looks like, but it's not real. Pseudo. Okay, so it looks like the real thing, but it's not. For those who are older, it's Denorex. Denorex is a shampoo that they used to sell in Brazil, and when the older people here were small, they had TV ads, and it just said Denorex. It looks like it, but it's not. So So we every time someone says, it looks like the real thing, but it's not, I always remember, de Norex, parece, mas não é. I don't even know what it was for. Don't ask me. I only remember the slogan. Oh, okay, thank you, anti-dandruff shampoo. Okay, so let's go back. For this reason, the selfish person wants their well-being before others, which in reality is a pseudo well-being, because nobody can be truly well causing others harm. So that rush, that feeling that the person gets when they think they defeated the other person, or they harm the other person, or they just put the other person below them, it's not a real well-being. It's not a real feeling, okay? On the other hand, the person who loves themselves truly wishes their own well-being, but they also wish everyone can enjoy this well-being. If I'm feeling awesome, I want everybody else to feel the same way. Have we ever been there too? Yes. Thank God, yes. Oh, yeah, sorry, I read from my computer and I forgot to put it on the screen. So this happiness that we feel within and we want to spread the joy, this happiness is the result of self-love. Like Marcia just said, we need to first love ourselves. Okay? So Jesus said, love your neighbors as yourself. So first ourselves, then our neighbors. We cannot give something we don't have. If I don't have love for myself, whatever I give to someone is not going to be real. It's just going to be pretend. It's going to be pseudo love. So this happiness is the result of self-love, which generates fraternity and charity that lead human beings to such a state of conscience, now it's not asleep anymore, it's wide awake, that they realize that only by giving happiness to others will they be truly achieving their own happiness. Like when everybody sets the bar high and everybody's above the bar, holy, that's absolutely awesome. Think of a room with everybody brooding, and think of a room with everybody happy. Which one do we want to be in? I know where I want to be. So while we can't reach this level of consciousness, what dictates our social relationships is selfishness. While we're not here yet, selfishness is ruling everything. So selfishness is produced by the unconsciousness that generates indifference, pseudo-altruism, okay? Because altruism is when you give, right? Pseudo-altruism is when you give not because you want to see the other person well. You give because you're bargaining with God, like, if I give, will you save me? So it's pseudo-altruism. I give, but I want something back. And this creates something that we call conscience anxiety. And we're going to talk more about what is conscience anxiety. So first I'm going to give you, oh, yeah, there, sorry. So first I'm going to give you a visual of pseudo-love. And then we have dislove. And then we have love. So what is each one of them? So let's start with dislove. So dislove can manifest 3 different ways. Dislove can manifest as cruelty through violence, disrespect, aggressiveness, resentment, revenge, hate. So this is one of the expressions of this love. Second way it can express itself is the opposite, indifference. The first one, I want to make you suffer. The second one, I couldn't care less about you. It's like you don't exist for me. And it's passiveness, not caring about what could have been to other people. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care if I could have helped you at any point. It's not my problem. Right? It's not my problem. And the last way it manifests, guilt. And that's the conscience anxiety. So guilt takes the person from cruelty to indifference, from one extreme to the other, like a pendulum. First, I want to make you suffer. Then I couldn't care less about you. And many of us have gone through both at different times, different lives, and even in the same life, we still do the pendulum thing. I hate you, I don't care. I hate you, I don't care. I hate you, I don't care. So we're going to talk more about this, but let's see what is the pseudo-love. So pseudo-love is the obligation to love our neighbors, because Jesus told me to, so I have to. And this is the masked face of the ego. It's pseudo-love, is sentimentalism, feeling of pity, desire to solve other people's problems. So again, it's the wrong kind of charity. So pseudo-love is when I think I love my neighbors as myself, and because I love my neighbors so much, I'm going to give, I'm going to do, and then I go home and I keep living my life, no problem. So, and some people take this to the extreme that they abandon their own families to do charity, to help others. And this is where the guilt comes in. Because we go through these two motions so many times that after a while, guilt catches up with us. And like, what am I doing? And then our conscience becomes anxious to fix it. We want to fix it. And we end up falling into pseudo-love, into sentimentalism. But when we are, and how do we know if it's pseudo-love or if it's fraternal love? Very easy. When it's pseudo-love, I feel pity. Pity is a feeling that implies that, oh, poor person. Fraternity, I have compassion. I can relate to the person's pain. Pity, oh, poor you, you're down there, I'm up here. So they are two completely different feelings. Right? Compassion is essential. I try to feel the other person's pain. Pity, it's pseudo-love. Leonorex looks like it, but it's not. Okay, I think I'm being so generous because I'm donating, because I'm giving, when in reality, I just feel like I'm so much better and I'm going to give you all my scraps. So you can be a little bit closer to me. Because I'm way up here, you're way down there.
For me, this love is not even this pseudo-love.
Well, it is pseudo-love because people don't realize it. It's when you don't realize it. Thank you very much for the comment. Let's go back here. And this explains, if you think about it, love. This love in this picture is closer to love than the pseudo-love. And that's the reason why. Because it's easier to see from one extreme to the next than from something that looks like it. Because I fool myself. When I fall into pseudo-love, it's a lot harder to go back to love. Because in my mind, remember the misinterpretation of the divine laws that humanity does? In my mind, I am misinterpreting love or pseudo-love. they look like they're the same. So it's harder to realize that we are here to move here. Yes.
I think that when you look outside at pseudo love and love, you don't know the difference because it's in the feeling inside the person. If she is prideful of what she's doing, she wants to show herself off. Is pseudo love, and she's doing because we really wants to help. Is love.
That's another way we can identify the pseudo love. Someone who does charity and needs everybody to know, that can't be love. Yes. So there are several ways to identify it, but to change, to transform from pseudo love into love requires a lot more work because you have to keep analyzing yourself all the time. You have to reflect and go back and think, okay, what did I just do? Was it love? Was it pseudo love? And I have to reflect and analyze. If I get to the conclusion that it was love, awesome. If I get to the conclusion it was pseudo love, I'm going to try and do again and better next time, right? Yes.
Recommend this lesson to like just
Which one?
like to
A picture. This,
yes,
this,
and the other one with is love and the
yeah, pseudo love, yeah.
pseudo love.
You're very welcome.
I was talking about it yesterday. Exactly.
Yay!
I don't know why I'm here today. So
Yeah, just a
I
coincidence,
I
right?
can understand.
Yeah, I get it. So in order to transform these inclinations, it's fundamental that the person becomes fully conscious and aware of themselves, of their tendencies to, sorry, here is indifference, not difference, their tendencies to indifference, cruelty, or sentimentalism. Let us see what Spirit Lazarus says about duty in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 17, item 7. And he says, duty is a moral obligation, firstly to ourselves and then to others. Duty is a law of life encountered in the smallest details, as well as in the most elevated acts. Why does duty start within ourselves? Because everything starts with ourselves. Everything. Love starts with self-love. Respect starts with self-respect. Charity starts with self-charity. Justice starts with self-justice. Serenity starts with self-serenity. Oh, I wish. If I could polish his shoes, I would be happy. So it starts firstly with ourselves because it's also how we're going to measure in our conscience. If it's cruelty, hate, dislove, if it's indifference, if it's sentimentalism or pseudo-love, right? So if we do our duty consciously, if we awaken our conscience and reflect before we act, then we're going to be doing our duty firstly to ourselves and then to others. Within the order of sentiments, duty is a very difficult one to fulfill because it finds itself in antagonism with the seductions of interests and seduction of the heart. So, when we're torn between what I want to do and what I know I should do, so that's why duty is such a hard one to fulfill. It is a divine law, and it's a very hard one to fulfill. And we really need our conscience for this one. Our conscience cannot be asleep, cannot be numbed. We really need our conscience awake for this one. Because choosing between what we want and between what we know is right, mainly in the beginning, is really hard. As we exercise it, in the end, they're going to be one and the same. But until they are one and the same, many times we're going to be torn between what I desire, my passions, and what I know is right. Again, the more we evolve, the closer they're going to be until what we desire is what is right. But until then, we need to work a lot. So, yeah. Man's intimate duty is left to his free will. So, we can always choose what we want, right? Our free will is not taken away. So, our intimate duty within us, that's left to our free will. So, ultimately, we decide with our conscience or without it. The pressure of man's conscience, this guardian of interior integrity, alerts and sustains him. You know, the conscience alerts us when it starts yelling at us, the red flag goes up and, you know, it starts blaring, beep, beep, beep. But it shows itself frequently impotent against the deceptions of passion. 3 more slides. Thanks. So it is impotent against the deceptions of passions. And that's when I twist and I try to make what I want fit within what I should, when they actually don't. But in my mind, I twist everything and I make a crazy connection, and then I justify to myself that it's okay to do what I want. Because it is connected somehow. No? Maybe? So, again, this is why it's so hard, because sometimes we twist until we think it's here, but it's not. Duty of the heart, when faithfully observed, elevates man. But how can we define it with exactitude? Where does duty begin? Where does it end? Duty begins exactly at the point where the happiness or tranquility of our neighbor is threatened, and therefore terminates at the limit we would not wish to be passed in relation to ourselves. Basically, it starts and finishes with treating other people the way I would like to be treated, and not doing to other people what I would not want anybody to do to me. So again, Jesus' golden rule is here. And that text was from, like it said there, Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 17, I believe, and that was Spirit Lazarus speaking. So Lazarus makes it clear that duty comes from our own conscience and begin within ourselves. The exercise of conscientious duty stimulates us to reach for wellness, goodness, and beauty. This self-conscience is responsible for a relationship with others based on our essence of love. When faced with the needs of others, the person acts with solidarity, empathy, and compassion, because that's how I want to be treated. Right? I want to be treated with solidarity, empathy, and compassion. What? That is, they put themselves in others' shoes and see others as being in evolution, just like they are, with the same needs to love, be loved, and achieve happiness. Only love can really connect people to each other through unbreakable ties, while the ties of dislove and pseudo-love are temporary, as are all the feelings that come from our ego. Does it make sense? Yeah. Questions, comments? Nope. Because it wasn't intelligible, or? Thank you. We're just thinking about how much you still have to work.
We just need to reflect about that.
Yeah, reflect and act, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because,
But
yeah,
step by step.
yes.
Step by step.
So the best exercise is the daily exercise to treat other people the way we would like to be treated. And that starts with our family. That starts with our partners, children, parents, co-workers. It starts with our immediate social circle, and then it expands. Like Renata said, step by step. We start little. We start with whoever is closest to us, and then we expand. Because if we have this idea that we want to embrace the whole world at once, and I'm going to love everybody as I love myself, even though some days I hate myself, that's not going to work. So we start small, and then we start expanding. Right? Okay, Bruno, do you want to let them know we're done? Do you know if the kids have something for us? Thanks. And again, I recommend this chapter. So it's 2 verses, and there are 12 full pages about 2 verses. And there's a whole lot more in the book that I could not fit in here. Do the kids have something?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a second.
Yes. They were the same thing.
So today, guys, we talk about the video of the month, that is love. And we saw 2 videos, right? Talk about Jesus, love, and also love for enemies, right?
Let them work, Paul. Let them work. Let them work.
Let them work.
Yeah, make them speak.
So we were talking, right, Sophie? Noah, what do you love, Noah? What do you love? How about you, Sophie? You? So nice. And we also talked.
Ana Clara, what you love? Who you love?
Yeah, I can see she has a whole lot of love to give.
And David also. That cheese.
Oh, yeah, mac and cheese.
And we all said that where is our heart, that should be our treasure. And then we're talking about these lovely things that we should keep inside our hearts. So I invite you guys to put the good things in this treasure box.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Oh, great team.
Thank you, Sophie.
your parents.
There was a lot, you know, a lot of things. Okay, we're gonna do our final prayer. Okay? I would have written food too. Moa, can you switch the song for our final prayer, please? So let's close our eyes. Dear Lord, we never get tired of thanking you for all of our opportunities, for all the chances you give us to learn, to feel, and to exercise the knowledge of your divine laws, the virtues that we are working so diligently to develop. We thank the mentors of our house for supporting us, for helping bring all of our friends together here today, those who are watching online, and everybody who today decided to take 1 hour of their time to learn about Jesus' teachings and examples, to try and take the knowledge we have from our minds into our hearts. We thank you for the opportunity to reflect on our mistakes and on our successes as well. And we thank you for all the support we had in order to achieve all the successes we've had so far. We ask you for strength and protection to keep working, to trying to feel like an apprentice and not get down by our mistakes, but instead be happy for the opportunity to learn and do better the next time. Thank you, Lord, for the beautiful day we are having today here in Calgary. Thank you for our jobs, for this city and this country that have welcomed us and help us provide for our families, for ourselves, and contribute to society so that we can improve ourselves in order to make a better collective. May we all have a blessed week full of reflections, full of learnings. So be it. We're going for the pass.